We are live again on UCY.TV radio, so no more replays tonight up until 12 a.m., which will be the end of the Jaded Show, of course. Right now, 8 to 10 Eastern Time is the Ochelli Effect. I am your host, Chuck Ochelli. As that wonderful bumper tells you, it is the Ochelli Effect. And, oh yeah, right, it's May 9th, 2015. Ugh, what a day, what a week, what a month, man. Oh, God help us all. Tonight on the show, I'm actually going to have a return guest, finally back on my air again, because he's been doing, seems like, everybody else's show, including Kim's show a bunch of times, Daniel Lewis Crumpton. So we're going to have a different sort of conversation tonight. Of course, he is the author of Then Came the Flood, and also that other book, The Poetry Thing, which I always screw up the name of, so I'll wait until Daniel gets on to tell you about that. And of course, he's also one of the main men over at zeninthecar.com, and that's an interesting website, not exactly typical at all, just like Daniel is not typical either. So we're going to wind up discussing all sorts of things, especially this recent article that he wrote based on the conversation that I had, I don't know, was it last week? I think it was last week. The conversation that myself and Kim both had on the Jaded Show with a UCY listener named Cracker, which spawned an article called They're All Gonna Shoot at You, I think. And, well, we'll see where that goes. I'll let Daniel tell the story exactly, because it seems weird. A lot of odd discussions are starting to erupt on social media over certain things that are being said, etc. So, hello to everybody who is listening in, on your fondle slab of choice on your applicable application, and all that kind of good stuff, plus those who decided to go to ucy.tv/TOE. I do appreciate you. There you'll find links to the YouTube. You'll find the MP3s, the RSS feed. If you change the number on the RSS feed, you can actually go back into the total archives of everything I've done on UCY. It's a couple hundred shows, I think, at this point. I don't know. I don't keep track of them numerically, that's for sure. But it's been an interesting and odd ride. Of course, a lot of times I do wind up focusing on the whole JFK thing. I know. But that's not what I'm all about all the time. Just happens to be one of those special areas of interest for me. But then again, social norms and challenging them and spirituality are also jags that I get into now and then. And this is why it's good to have a guy on like Daniel Lewis Crumpton, who is not only an activist, but also an interesting, introspective, and, well, just a serious, not only introspective, but let me get this straight. I mean, really, he's like, he's got a philosophy which comes from a wholly different place than where my philosophies come from, but somehow or other we seem to intertwine pretty well, and we seem to make sense with each other. Which is why one of these nights I'm actually just going to do a spoken word kind of thing, like from an artistic point of view, and I think I'm going to have Daniel do it with me, because 2 hours of me rambling is more than anybody can handle. But those of you that do decide to go to ucy.tv/TOE, like I said, YouTube thing there, the automatic player, the archives always go there, so it's the one place to go. I don't actually have a separate website or anything like that. I do have a presence on Facebook and a couple other places, and people are trying to get me to do other things now, and more on that later, I'm sure. But anyway, as it goes, and as things progress. Oh, also there's a donate button if you feel like helping me to survive better one of these days. You can also drop something into that as well. That is only present at the ucy.tv/TOE page as well. So, anyway, it is in light of the civil unrest in Baltimore. It is in light of the concepts of nonviolence versus preparation versus those who believe that somehow or other their particular personal arsenals are going to be the saviors of themselves and the rest of us all, especially, in light of the great catastrophe about to happen in this world, etc., etc. This is where this philosophical logjam begins. I'm not into fear porn. I'm not into screaming that you need to be able to survive the great cataclysm which is about to land on this planet. The great cataclysm is not about to land. It has already landed. It is being incrementally done, and we are watching the infection grow on the human species as we speak. We're just aware of it. And it was sort of a slow growing sort of malignancy that has been there for quite a long time. I like to go back, 50 years or so, because that's where I've spent my time studying. But the fact is that this is a long time coming, and it's not just from one particular group, from one particular piece of what I like to think of as the great triad of the powers in this world, and all of that. It is actually something that has not been codified properly. I don't think so in alternative media, certainly. The mainstream completely ignores it, just like they want to tell us that everything is actually a racial incident, everything is all about race, and so on and so forth. And let's completely ignore the fact that that the actual posture of our local police forces has changed. The ideas behind why our military is pushed into service has changed. The fact is that the intelligence community has absolutely erupted into insanity over the past half century or so. With ease, you can count it from there. But, hey, I digress, don't I? So very shortly, Daniel Lewis Crumpton will join me. He's just not on the line just yet. But let me see. We're just about at that point where I think he'll be jumping in. When he does, excuse me, when he does, I think something rather fascinating is going to ensue. Again, I don't like to script any of this stuff. And initially, when I was talking to Daniel, I did speak to him off the air last night briefly, just to kind of make sure that he was going to be available, because he's been doing all kinds of different shows. He was on with Kira Young, who was a previous guest on this show. Today, I think it was a pre-record. It might have just finished playing when I was going to air, actually. He was on with Dylan Wade at some point today, doing a live thing, and you guys have heard Dylan on here. He was absolutely also, planning to, if he's got any energy left, probably bleed right into the Jaded discussion tonight. So, a guy who wants to do 4 radio shows in a day because he is so moved to keep things up, I do appreciate it, So, anyway, much love to those who have decided. Oh, you know what else? I forgot to thank somebody, of course. Recent donation from Carmine in Michigan. Do appreciate it. Anything which is given to me, I do want to make sure I shout out to anybody who decides to drop something into the bucket, because believe me, it's become quite bottomless. Anyway, enough of my crap and enough of what else is going on. what is relevant at this point? Are we now looking at, and I saw this in passing earlier today, the jailbreak now, the alleged jailbreak, and, am I the only one who just kind of caught a whiff of that and said, oh, so now they've decided to lose more of their assets out into the world and call them ISIS or whatever it is that happens to be the boogeyman of the moment? Is this what's going to happen over and over again in Iraq? In Yemen, in every other country, and probably a few new countries that you guys have never even decided to think about or examine on a map before, or maybe didn't even exist up until 30 years ago. It depends. Depends on what it is that's required for this little problem reaction solution thing that has gone extremely cyclical and into, hyperdrive over there in the Middle East. Is anybody else noticing that this narrative continues on and it all comes out of the prison system, that's allegedly being controlled by our people over there and everything else, and it's the disaster of the torture, and it's the disaster of letting people escape, and people are now storming, and it's the prisoner uprising. Because after all, that's completely against the philosophy of what's gone on in this country as of late. You're supposed to behave like a well-behaved inmate, aren't you? And of course this is part of the narrative so that you can sort of identify with it, and wow, look at these rogue people that are escaping all over the Middle East, and look at all these people who actually have their roots in the torturous prison system that we had erected over there and everything else. Oh, does nobody see the correlation? Anyway, that's enough of me running my mind and my mouth. Daniel Lewis Crumpton, as I said, and some people call him D.L. Crumpton, the author of Then Came the Flood and many other interesting things. Of course, there's the poetry book, who I'm going to have to get the name from him because otherwise I'll screw it all up. What is the name of that poetry book again, Daniel?
Hearts and Arrows, Halos and Horns.
Yeah, I always put it in the wrong order. Nice. Now I'm sipping. Wonderful. No alcohol, no drugs in me today. I'm just stupid. It's all right. I think my IQ just decided to evaporate a little bit this morning when I got up. I don't know why, but it just happened. So, ought to be fascinating tonight, Daniel.
Fluoride in the water, man.
Yeah, that's true. I have been drinking some of that stuff that's got some of that water in it lately.
Yep.
All right. Well, look, nobody's perfect, man. The other thing, of course, is that at zeninthecar.com, and of course at Zen in the Car TV on YouTube and all this other stuff, you've extracted a lot of things from the Jaded Show, which is, Kim's show, and you made a lot of appearances on there, and some of it is some of the most hysterical stuff. I mean, literally speaking, I privately sit there and listen to it just to crack up, because it's hysterical. And I even brought some of that stuff onto other radio shows when they said, we need something lighthearted. This is all doom and gloom. And I said, well, you know what? I got a story about a walrus.
I got one for Kim's show tonight. I'm going to save it for then because that's when I can get really silly.
Oh, yeah.
But I got you guys a story tonight. You're going to love it.
Oh, beautiful. Well, but the thing is, you're extremely diverse, but the reason why you're on tonight and the reason why it's necessary to have you on my show finally, again, is because, well, there was kind of an odd situation that broke out on last week's Jaded, right?
Yeah, man, I missed one show and you guys get into all kinds of trouble.
Well, you know what happened is I was just in this stupid, aloof sort of mood because I'm sitting there talking to Dylan Wade, who I brought up earlier. Of course, you were on a show a little while ago. And I'm talking to him about the ridiculousness that goes on in his history class, which I find extremely fascinating. I don't know. Nobody's complained about it yet, but I think it's hysterical, right? Anyway, I have no idea why the word lithium is being dropped into the chat room over and over again, but okay. No problem, unless I'm just seeing repeats. Maybe I need some. That's cool. Maybe there's lithium in the water and it's mellowing me out. That means these shows are going to suck. Okay. Anyway, back to it. See, I can't even stay on track, man, tonight, I'm telling you. Back to it, though. The whole thing was, you heard this phone call that went on where Cracker joined in the midst of me doing this deconstruction of Dylan's history class. Cracker called in and said, I want to discuss something different. And so we, of course, on that show always go, sure, why not? Let's go. Totally took it into another direction. You took a listen to that because you do actually listen to my shows and Kim's show
Mm-hmm.
even when you're not on them.
Right.
So you listened to that, and you heard me sort of struggle with what was going on there and kind of give up. And I bet you most people didn't really catch that, but they probably just thought, well, Cracker just beat him down and won the intellectual argument. But you heard me give up. So because you do know me. But the thing is, also, if you're sort of in tune with other people and you sort of pay attention to what's going on, you can tell when somebody who's a host or a co-host gives up.
Get worn out.
Yeah, I was definitely worn out. Kim didn't know what to do, and Cracker just steamrolled through, and that resulted in you writing an article.
Right.
So I wonder if you want to pick up the story from there.
Yeah, sure. First, though, you mentioned earlier I've been doing all these shows today. Good Lord, and it it's humbling. I do want to say that it's very, very humbling, because I'm a guy that is just trying to carry a message of, all of us have been through the whole Alex Jones phase. We've all been through the 9/11 phase. We've been through the police state phase. We've done our storable foods. We did the whole ammo thing, and I'm just of a different philosophy. I'm not really of the persuasion that of a doomsday prophet. I just,
Right.
I believe in the collective consciousness. I believe in a morphic field. Anybody who's ever heard of the 100th monkey syndrome knows, and there are people, you can go to Snopes and they'll say that experiment never happened or whatever, but the very fact that even if it's a myth, if the myth has infiltrated the collective consciousness, that proves the 100th monkey syndrome. And you know what the 100th monkey syndrome is, right?
I'm going to need you to refresh my memory on it, because I know about there's a lot of different things where they relate, psychology to monkeys.
Right.
And to be honest with you, I'm not exactly sure off the top of my head which one you're referring to. So I'd like you to explain it, actually.
Okay, now the 100th monkey syndrome, and like I said, and don't quote me on the facts of like quoting verbatim the studies. I'm just going to speak as a layman here.
Well, you're giving a generalization. You're going to paraphrase what the main concept that emerges from said study or said alleged study is, right?
Yeah, but you know how you'll have nitpickers come back. That's not what they said in the study. It's crap like that. So
yeah, I know.
I'm doing the layman thing. But essentially what the 100th monkey syndrome is I think it was in between World War I and World War II, over in Japan, there were these snow monkeys or snow African monkeys. I don't know what they were. But they were on this island. And the Japanese scientists inserted sweet potatoes or yams or whatever onto the island, something that wasn't indigenous to the island.
Right.
And these monkeys didn't know what to do with it, And so they wouldn't eat it because there was dirt all over it, And finally, after, however long they did the study, this one little baby monkey figured out that if you take this sweet potato and you take it to the beach and you wash off the dirt and you eat it, it tastes pretty good. So she started to teach all these other monkeys, these snow monkeys, to take the sweet potatoes to the water and wash them off. And in one generation, every monkey that was born after that didn't have to be taught. They automatically knew how to do it, right? So that's interesting in that, the morphic field of a species, like let's say if you can imagine that all those particular monkeys are on a specific wavelength or frequency, once enough of them, I think it's less than 10%, almost 10%, once they all have a learned ability, the entire morphic field or frequency of that species changes. Okay?
Right, so, and that happens collectively, when it comes to, those that are sort of adjacent to one another in one shape or another, one shape or form, because even in the human species, we have gestures and things which are not necessarily taught, like nodding your head in our culture, means a particular thing. You may nod your head differently in a different culture, but the fact is you're not taught that. You just simply pick up on it as, part of the collective expression. And a lot of things become part of the collective expression that are not, specifically laid out in an instructional way to children, to the next generation, so on and so forth. And this is sort of how, like organic normalization occurs in any collective species. So, yeah, okay, now I know which one you're talking about.
All right, well, where it gets even more peculiar or cool is that there was an island not too far away that had the same species of monkey, and the scientists had never, messed with that island. But when they injected sweet potatoes to that particular island, these monkeys also already knew how to do it, and they never had contact with any of the monkeys from Island A, right? So the entire species, because of a threshold that was hit in knowledge, evolved. Okay, and I'm not talking about Darwinian evolution here of one species into another species.
No,
I'm
this
talking
is resonating consciousness,
right,
which is a different thing from Darwinism. As I said, psychology is not the same as the physical idea of evolution. That's a different study. You know what I mean? And the thing is that psychology is based on a whole lot of things which are intangible to the normal scientific standards.
right,
And this is one of those things where if, a generation later you have, Island A being, fully acclimated to this particular idea, and Island B has never been introduced to it, but the moment that you drop that particular, element onto Island B, then they absolutely wind up resonating, immediately picking up on it. There's no training time, there's no sort of adjustment period. They just sort of seem to pick it up because there is a resonance to collective consciousness, and that's one of the proofs of it.
exactly.
Yeah.
And so this, I believe. I mean, well, I don't really believe it. I kind of know it because I can see it in everyday life that this is the case with human beings. I mean, I got a couple of toddlers that are around here, and these cats can use iPads and smartphones better than I can. Where did that come from? Where did that come from?
Right.
Where did where did they get this ability to pick up an iPad or a tablet or whatever and automatically know how to use it, better than me? I'd have to go down to the Verizon store to learn how to use most of the features on my phone. But this 3-year-old and this 4-year-old, man, they could pick it up and get on YouTube, or they could do whatever they need to do quickly. So even for the people who kind of dismiss the 100th monkey syndrome and the morphic field and all that, you know, you're going to have to explain that to me.
Oh, right. I mean, I often point out that, when I went onto YouTube the first time to do my videos and stuff, I was having trouble doing certain things, and my 9-year-old helped me, you know,
Yeah.
because she just knew. And I asked her, where did you learn this from? She had no clue where she had picked it up from. She just simply had it. It was like, well, I kind of figured this out, and I just sort of knew that this is the way this worked, and it was kind of odd. And this is, again, part of the reality. And now the new kids that are coming up, like my son now, I'm very sure that, an iPhone or whatever is going to be like nothing, you know.
Mm.
So, yeah, absolutely.
So, and the reason that I bring that up is because into the Anon 4041 in the chat room, it's LOUIS, and I haven't messed with Cracker yet, but you might want to listen. Um, is because I'm of the opinion that we're at a precipice in human evolution, and we have a choice as a civilization on where we're going to head from this point on, from a conscious level and a physical level,
Hmm.
which is, are we going to go down this road of um, negativity and being doomsday prophets, and the sky is falling, and the police state's going to win, and all these horrible things? Are we going to? Is that what we really want to inject into the collective consciousness? Because if we keep doing it, and we keep doing it with intensity, then you're guaranteed to have that. Now, that's not really the kind of future that I want to see, and I don't think that it's written in stone. I'm of the opinion that um, if you can get, just like with the 100th monkey syndrome, if you can get 10% of the people to believe that there is a way out of this, a peaceful way out of this, then it's going to start triggering minds, just like the revolution of 1776, brush fires in the minds of men. So that's the opinion that I take. And when you had that caller call in on Jaded, the other night, I was so exhausted, and I was going to call in, and rap with you guys, but I was out I started my garden and all that, and was being with nature. I was so exhausted, I just had to listen. And when the caller called in, I could tell by the time that he got done with you guys, he had worn you down. You know, he had worn you down, and it was disheartening for me because whenever me and you and Kim talk about things, we always try to leave it with a positive and upbeat, you know, on a positive and upbeat note, you know, to inspire other people to get up and do something. And this was just this galvanizing tirade of we're all doomed. You know what I mean?
Hmm. No, I know, and the fact is that over time, there have been various doomsday prophets who have predicted all sorts of things like this. I mean, this is not the first time that we're hearing. Jade Helm is not the first time we're hearing that there is going to be this, martial law instituted in the United States, and that's just specific to, our this particular situation. But I mean, over time, there have been plenty of doomsday prophets who have sworn that the world was going to come to an end, that the Armageddon was upon us,
Hmm.
over and over again. And you can chalk that up to religious zealots, zealots, or you can chalk that up to mental disorders or whatever else. But the thing is, in a lot of cases, these guys um, bring about some of the things, and that's the problem too, is that, and I really want you to hit that point again, that you can cause these things to happen if you cause a resonance of belief among a populace. If everybody was to believe that we're going to be completely driven under by the state in this country, if there was a significant enough population that absolutely believes that that is just the way it's going to be, and at some point, we're all going to be part of the prison planet.
Hmm.
Okay, if that's all there is to it, well, you know what? You're going to manifest that into reality. That's going to happen.
Right.
And this is part of the battle that that I think we all need to be more involved with, because it's not necessary to manifest this. See, we don't have to assist them in bringing about what they may choose to do. You know what I mean? We don't have to assist the oppression. They're plenty capable of doing things themselves.
Right. Right.
So why help?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. But yeah, so I was after I listened to you guys, I said, I really want to address it, and it wasn't really, necessarily me targeting, your caller because I don't know the guy, but I hear people like that particular caller all the time on other shows. But I just chose to use that particular caller as an example because it was fresh in my mind, and I wrote an article called "They're All Going to Shoot at You," right?
Right.
Which, it's kind of a mockery of Carrie. They're all going to laugh at you.
See, and,
So
and, and I countered to you, just in case you weren't really, thinking of Carrie. If you remember, Adam Sandler
yeah,
had a thing
yeah,
where he did kind of the same deal. They're all going to laugh at you,
yeah,
and it kind of works both ways, doesn't it?
yeah.
Yeah. So go ahead.
All right, so anyway, I'll go ahead and read it for your audience here. They're all going to laugh at you. Daniel Lewis Crumpton here, wishing to deliver a bit of my First Amendment to all of you.
Well, they're all
Recently,
going to shoot at you.
they're all going to shoot at you.
You said
Yeah.
they're all going to laugh at you.
Oh, my bad. Sorry, Freudian
it's
slip.
we'll start again because it's live. We gotta
Yeah.
take two. All right.
Recently, I was listening to Jaded with Kim Ochelli on UCY.tv, a radio show I'm a frequent guest of myself, though not on this particular night. A listener by the name of Cracker called in to express his concerns regarding the recent events in Baltimore in the aftermath of the alleged murder of Freddie Gray while in police custody. Cracker began his call by pointing out the rap sheets of police homicide victims and how these people were, quote, black thugs. After host Kim Ochelli expressed her view that a person's rap sheet doesn't warrant an instant death sentence, the caller made the Indiana Jones logical leap of faith by switching gears to the idea that all of this was a distraction from the real issue of a police state. Cracker points out, with no attachment to the details of the Baltimore issue, his contempt for the fact when people complain at police departments, they are ignored. Now, before I get into the meat of this piece, I do have to address the opening premise of the caller's concerns. I don't do the whole racism thing because, quite honestly, I think it's just a waste of time, due to the fact that I personally don't believe in races, rather I believe in cultures. That being said, I don't really see the need to distinguish a, quote, black thug over a thug at all, but Cracker is more than entitled to make those distinctions for himself. Secondly, I don't see how the caller could possibly believe that people murdered while in police custody without due process of law could be a distraction from the issue of a growing police state in this country and dismiss those murders due to rap sheets generated by the police. Anyone who is aware of the police state rising knows full well that one of their many tactics is to upcharge those they arrest with anything and everything they can think of. I have personally spoken to many police officers who gloat about upcharging all the time, with the justification that they know the suspect lawyers will plead down anyway, so they might as well throw as much mud against the wall as they can to see what sticks. However, Mr. Cracker has no problem whatsoever dismissing the issue of Freddie Gray based on how many statutes and act violations the police could pin on the guy, which may or may not be true. As I said before, the Freddie Gray thing will not be the meat of this article, but I had to premise the logical nosedive this particular caller began with to prepare you for what is to come. For the next hour and some change, Mr. Cracker gives Alex Jones a run for his money as he nearly swallows his phone and, with a loud, guttural, desperately pessimistic voice, essentially declares that all is lost, after establishing that he will completely talk over any opposing views expressed by the host and co-host, because after all, if you can talk the loudest, that means you must be right. He uses the ham-fisted, quote, rabbit trail technique when asked direct questions. You know how it works. You ask a direct question, and the person who has absolutely no answer replies with a 20-minute story that has no connection to the question. So by the time you are done, you'll have completely forgotten what you asked to begin with. Mr. Cracker then goes on, after popping his intellectual ego Viagra, to scream to the audience that A, there is a police state coming, and B, nothing can be done about it, hence completely demoralizing anyone who happens to think otherwise, thereby immobilizing them by means of fear from attempting to do anything about it. Now, ain't that a great prize at the bottom of the box of Cracker Jacks? The overzealous caller goes on to outline things that I think we can all agree with, such as a fiat currency, globalization, the police state, and the collapse of everything as we know it. These are concepts that we are all well aware of and concerned about, myself included. However, where Cracker veers off the course I've set myself upon is at the point where he does a Joker-like hair pull and rips through all the avenues of pushing this thing back. Take tyrants to court? Nope, not going to work. Protest? No chance. Educate the masses? Good luck there. Vote for liberty candidates? Why vote? Expose the corruption? I'd rather stock up on ammo. Will it work on the federal level? Of course not. How about the local level? Unicorns and Skittles, fella. This guy's a hardliner and makes absolutely sure that by the time he's done ingesting his phone with his predictions of all-out nuclear annihilation of the human species, the listener is left with the impression that there is no point engaging in anything because he has attempted to shoot down any and all solutions many of us advocate. Cracker points to the mythical date of when the, quote, shit hits the fan, as they say, when it will be kill or be killed. Aside from the fact that no one has ever been able to define for me exactly what the shit hitting the fan is, they typically say it will be when the dollar collapses. I find this an odd indicator of total enslavement by a tyrannical, shadowy elite, seeing as how the same people of this sort of mindset will clearly tell you that the establishment of the current dollar was the beginning of total enslavement by a tyrannical, shadowy elite. So let me get this straight. The shadowy elite designed the fiat system of the dollar by establishing the Federal Reserve in 1913, putting us all in shackles of never-ending debt. But if this shackle of the dollar collapses, that is when the proverbial shit will hit the fan. Is Cracker suggesting that the only thing postponing enslavement is enslavement? Your guess is as good as mine. And quite frankly, this particular caller lost me when he stated that Muslims get a free pass in this country because they're willing to kill people. The first thing I would like to know is what Muslims are getting a free pass at. Full price at the local barbecue joint buffet? Secondly, aren't all those drones flying over Muslim countries and smart bombs blowing Muslim kids to bits sent courtesy of the world's finest Christian nation? The one thing this caller was absolutely sure of is that this thing will never be settled peacefully, and I'm sure he would be more than happy for you to subscribe to that viewpoint as well. That's right. He is going to go down in a Clint Eastwood blaze of glory, complete with squinty-eyed and half-chewed cigars. He holds his shotgun up at a legion of Linco Bearcats as the words, "Go ahead, punk, make my, oh God, I've been tased, bitten in the face by a rather large dog, riddled with rubber bullets, real bullets, and these nightsticks really hurt while they're thwacking against my dying skull. Maybe I should have thought this whole shooting at the tyrants that wanted me to shoot at them to begin with so they could do this thing to me in the first place through before I came out of my woodshed with this cute little shotgun." See how silly that sounds? The fact of the matter is that people who say they will shoot back will not shoot back, no matter how much they say they will. Because if such people actually would, they would have done it a long, long time ago. My dad always used to tell me, never take a man who talks about bringing a world of ass whooping on you seriously, because he's overcompensating with his mouth what he isn't willing to do with his ass. That goes for bullies and gun barrel licking doomsday prophets waiting for feces to fly from a fan. The caller indicated he was an older gent. that was in Vietnam and knew from the age of 16 that this country was turning into a police state, but still made the decision of participating in an unconstitutional institution, the military, and furthering the agenda of a police state by being a pawn in a police action overseas. Thanks, Guy. We young whippersnappers really appreciate you passing the buck on down to us, so we're forced to find solutions you were too apathetic to deal with in your day and too pessimistic to even consider as options today. Your country's prodigy is in debt to you, Mr. Cracker. The fact of the matter is that the caller is wrong about this revolution. Yes, it is true that American citizens are armed to the teeth, just as it is true that the police and military are as well. And what a conflict would spell is simply mutually assured destruction. At the end of the day, the best interest of both so-called sides will be is self-preservation, and that excludes mutually assured destruction. When you rule that out, the only option you are left with is peaceful revolution. What needs to be understood is that revolutions transpire differently with the passing of time, though the purpose of revolution is to essentially reboot something which has degraded. Revolutions are upgrades, and anyone who believes we're ever going back to the good old republic that started in 1776 is sadly mistaken. No, as I always say, and as your eyes see each and every time you visit our site, revolution is evolution. We aren't going to restore the republic. This is true. What we're going to do is walk through these birth pangs fearlessly, and on the other side give birth to something far, far better. People such as Cracker will still be cracking rocks together, waiting for a spark from the Neanderthal age, as people such as myself and you hold up the flaming torch of liberty from the rising of a new species. As for the claim that words are useless in revolution, I would ask people of such persuasion to remember the fact that the sword of Washington would have had no power if not for the pen of Paine. And what more are the rights in our Constitution than mere words? No, words are the most effective weapon in any battle because they have more power than any bullet in that they can blow minds away rather than brains. As Tom York says, what's the point of instruments? Words are a sawed-off shotgun. So, if you're determined to fight in this thing, you best reload. As for me, my pen is my sword and my keyboard is my AR-15.
Well, there you go. Now, here's the thing. I was trying to say during that conversation that I don't believe that a peaceful revolution, as people codify it, is a reality. I also do not believe that an armed conflict is going to solve the problems. Okay, I was trying to state that it's going to require an innovation. Okay, and I know that that sounds like I'm copping out of the situation, but that's really what it's going to require. This is not, this isn't 1776, the last time an armed conflict was successful on this continent against an oppressive government. Okay, this isn't, we have muskets and they do too. That's not the situation anymore. Okay, what are you going to do with, a police force that's not being paid, first of all, and individuals that might be able to be retained by the state, which would also be armed with stuff like drones, which the general public doesn't have very much of. And if you're standing there with a shotgun, and a Hellfire missile comes and drops on your head, what are you going to say?
Yeah.
This is not the workable way to go. Well, an insurgent army held back the U.S. military in Vietnam. That's great if you're thinking that an acceptable body count is 22-1. That's not going to fly here, okay? No. That's just blood for blood's sake, and it may purge some things out of the system, but that's not going to solve the problems. It's not going to work. I don't care how much you stocked up. I don't care if you got a house full from, floor to ceiling with ammo. It ain't going to happen that you're going to be able to outlast the larger machine if the machine stays running. It's that simple. I mean, I don't know, but see, the thing is, I can't go for just, peaceful revolution is going to work either. I can see that the collective consciousness changing can have an effect. But I think that there's going to require some innovation here. There's going to require another answer, And, of course, that was completely, not heard during that conversation and is not heard by a lot of people who want to propagate what I think is really fear porn, like over the Jade Helm thing, where it's gotten to a point where, people are like, oh, my God, it's coming. Now the police state is coming. And I'm like, intelligence operations like this have been happening on American soil all the time.
Mm-hmm.
This is nothing new. Do I like it? No. Do I think it's a good thing? No. Do I think we should not even bother looking at it? No. I am suspicious of all this activity, and I think we should remain ever vigilant about it. But it doesn't mean that I'm going to join in with the, panic attack people. It's not going to happen. Bunker down, hunker down, get yourself ready, fortress, make a fortress out of your home, and make sure you've got plenty of ammo and storable food because you're going to be able to outlast the apocalypse.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I can't go there. I can have some respect for those that do want to be prepared, but also want to prepare themselves and also try and come up with another way to deal with things. You know what I mean? Like I said again, it's going to require a different approach here. And the idea of resonant consciousness, this is one aspect that I think is legitimate. Do I think that anybody who chooses to be armed should not be armed? Absolutely not. I think that everybody that wants to have a gun should absolutely have one. I think that everybody should know how to handle their weapons. I think that everybody should be able to be responsible and defend themselves, But I also think at the same time you need to collectively deal with your neighbors. Okay? You need to begin to cooperate as opposed to having confrontations. You need to stop separating yourselves into subcategories constantly because, if the world burns, it's really not going to matter what color your skin is. It's still all going to peel off if the flames get hot enough.
Yeah.
Okay. And
let me just say something to the people in the chat room. I'm not being disrespectful towards Cracker, okay? I don't know the guy personally, but he hit on so many of the things that philosophically and ideologically I'm against, as far as is injecting the American people with this traumatizing fear that there's nothing that we can do. That is bullshit. I'm sorry. I know this is not Kim's show, but that's bullshit. And if you buy into that, look, if you want to have storable foods, great. I'm not telling you to do it or not do it. I think it's wise to do it. If you want to, go out to the range and learn how to be a well-regulated militia, that's great. God bless you. But, I'm not, and Cracker, amongst other people, even on the show last week, said that his solution for these tyrants was to shoot them. Okay, well, you be the first one, dude. If that position, the position of fear mongering that you're taking, and I'm not talking directly to Cracker, but people of that mindset, if that's your solution, that you shoot a tyrant, why don't you guys go ahead and be the first and set an example?
No, and you know what? I like Cracker. I really do. And by the way, just for the phone callers that are trying to come in, sometime in the second hour, we're going to start taking phone calls, okay? I like Cracker. I really do. And generally speaking, I like most of what he has to say. It's just that when we go to these extremes,
and don't get me wrong, because I know there's a lot of people who are doing Alex Jones bashing too. I believe that there is an audience that Cracker and people like him are appropriate for. In the Republican Party, these neoconservatives who don't even know that 9/11 was an inside job. I think his message would be very, very effective there. Okay? But for your audience, people who are aware of JFK, people who are aware of 9/11, people who are aware of the Gulf of Tonkin, the Trilateral Commission, the Federal Reserve, people who are aware of these problems, I don't think it's going to be so effective because you're stagnating the people who know. So I think that message of fear needs to go to people who are in ignorance to the stuff that we already know about. That
it's
message
really tailor-made for like the Glenn Beck type of guys out there who I've got no respect for. But it's tailor-made for them because look, they're looking for something to fear. And I'm telling you, if you can do the endurance run of being able to listen to Alex Jones every day, then you know what? I guess you've never actually suffered a PTSD because I can't do it, man. Yeah. I can't do it. It's too much, and it's all ramped up, and it's all really just this sort of cloaked right-wing stuff now. It's like, oh, the left-right paradigm is false, but, if you're going to support one side or the other, the right wing looks good. You notice it's that sort of roundabout twist into the whole, support that side of the BS.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So here's where I'm at, Chuck. Okay, me and you and people who are like us, we're aware of the problems. All right. So we got a couple of choices. We can either sit around and keep talking about the problems. There's weeds in our garden, or we can go, okay, all of us are aware of the weeds in our garden. So what do we do now? Where do we go from here? Because yes, this has been like a snowball thing in this country, and generations before us have let it get this far. So what are we gonna do? Are we going to pass the buck on down to the next generation, or are we going to find solutions right here? And I guarantee you, shooting at the tyrants, which is mouth, is not the answer. Good luck. Good luck. That's the best way to end any hope of a future for the next generation or a republic. So, great.
And again to the callers, sometime in the second hour, I'm going to take phone calls. That's the last time I'm going to say that, okay? When I ask for them, I'll start taking them in. And whoever calls in, whether it's Cracker or anybody else, you'll be welcome on the air. Okay? But in the second hour, please. Sorry, go ahead, Daniel.
Is your phone line blowing up, man?
Yes, actually it is. I think you probably lost me a couple of listeners now.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
These views are not represented by the but this is just my views,
Oh, listen, I'm discussing them with you first because I want them laid out. I mean, if there's going to be an argument that's going to ensue, let's at least get your position. I mean, after all, he was on for quite a while to talk about this. And the thing that I wanted to get into next is what else this spawned. Because it spawned other discussions as well, and I got private crap about it.
Yeah.
By the way, because nobody ever goes at me in public, by the way. That never happens except in the chat room every once in a while, and there I tolerate abuse. But usually when people want to get nasty with me, they private message me on Facebook, or they figure out how to email me, which, by the way, is Chuck, CHUCK 1972 at Lycos, spelled LYCOS.com. If you really want to send your hate mail, there it goes. Send it there if you don't use the federal book and all that. If you use Facebook, you can find me. Okay, but there you go. I get private hate mail. And I laugh at a lot of it. But here's the thing. They engage you publicly.
Yeah.
Love to hear about this, too.
Yeah, and you know me, I'm a real spiritual guy, and I don't believe in coincidences. But this is my position, this is the position I'm going to stand on, is that yes, there are solutions, there are peaceful solutions. There's not one solution that's going to end all of it, but there are several different peaceful solutions that we can engage in to turn this thing around. And as an example of that, as a testament to that, the very next day, okay, after I posted that article, this happened. And usually I don't get into Facebook arguments. Typically, I don't get into arguments at all. You're going to believe whatever you want to believe anyway. I can just say I could speak my truth and you could speak your truth and whatever. But I thought it was ironic that, that article was posted on several different pages, and one of them was a militia page. And it spawned a back and forth between me and another gentleman. And like I said, typically I don't engage in Facebook threads and arguments and stuff like that. You can get bogged down doing that. You know what I mean?
It does waste a lot of time, no matter what your area of interest is. Yeah. People try to engage me on the JFK forums, and after a while, I just sort of have to extract myself from it, no matter how pointless it is what they're saying, and no matter how ridiculous their challenges are. It becomes so time-consuming to smack down stupidity that, you feel like, listen, you know what? Enjoy your pointless viewpoint, please. Because if that's where you want to stay, my brother, who am I to tell you? You're free to be stupid in this country, too. Yeah. That is your right. As far as I'm concerned, you are absolutely free to be a moron anytime you want. So, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're fine. And for any of your listeners who hadn't heard me before, I am an activist. I'm a political activist, and I do engage in peaceful means of educating the masses. I do protest. I do go to city hall, city council meetings. You know, I do engage the local quote unquote authorities. I do pass out pocket constitutions. I do all those things, and I see firsthand that it does work. And so this second article that was the next day, it happened exactly as I wrote it to the best of my memory. I wrote it about 10 or 15 minutes after it happened. But it started off with a back and forth with this guy on Facebook. So you ready?
Absolutely.
The name of the article is Warner Robins Police Department and, quote, Black Thugs Love My Neo-Nazi Ass.
I'm sorry. That's just a hysterical title. Sorry, but it does speak back to that whole narrative from the first article, doesn't it?
Yes, sir.
Yes, it does. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so here we go. Life is not without a sense of irony, as I always say, and this little ditty shall be a prime example of that maxim. Though I should warn you before reading on that if you were easily offended or are not too keen on hearing bone-crunching truth about certain things, you should curl back up in your bed of self-denial and read no further. Recently, I wrote an article which briefly touched on the Baltimore issue as a result of the Freddie Gray murder. If you read the article, They're All Gonna Shoot at You, you were aware that Freddie Gray was only mentioned in the opening, as the rest of the article addressed the revolution going on in this country as a whole. Nevertheless, it took about 15 minutes for someone from social media to add their 2 cents on the article with an idiotic response regarding, quote, black thugs in this country destroying the flag and yada, yada, yada. Typically, I refrain from social media phallic measuring contests, but on this particular occasion, I felt it was my duty to engage someone with the IQ of an eggplant as a public service by making an example of his douchebaggery. Below is the little back and forth he and I had, and as a favor to him, I will be changing his actual last name to Douchebag, and because that would be funny. So here's the dialogue. Paul Douchebag. I'm more worried about being shot by a black thug than I am being shot by a cop, period. Blacks categorize any issue they have with white people when they actually bring most of it on themselves. With that being said, I'm tired of tiptoeing around blacks because we are afraid to hurt their feelings. Daniel Lewis Crumpton. When about less than 10% of this article had anything to do with, quote, black thugs, yet it is the only issue of a much larger issue being addressed that you chose to point out, I would have to say you are far from tiptoeing around blacks, but rather seem to be preoccupied with stomping as loud as you can around them. Cheerio. Paul Douchebag. You're right. I'm tired of it now, so voicing it as loud as I can, all the rioting and violence that they do, everyone says, oh, we feel bad for them. They've been oppressed. I'm 45 years old, and for as long as I remember, they've had the same rights, if not more, because of the color. Yes, I'm tired of their whining and crying. I see every day of blacks killing whites, and there's no mention of it, no hate crime involved by the DOJ or any type of media or government, but yet it continues every day. They kill whites because of color, but to this day it has not been proven a single cop shooting was because of color, but yet because of their background, and we still have people bleeding heart liberals who take up for them because they are poor, oppressed blacks. Daniel Lewis Crumpton. Well, congratulations, fella. You've successfully taken the bait on the hook of divide and conquer tossed out on the line by the federal government. Those black people you are so frustrated with happen to be American citizens, just like you. You may want to view them in a different light because of the color of their skin, but I choose to see them as people and ascertain each incident of police brutality on an individual basis. The fact of the Baltimore thing is that the police killed a guy without due process, and as a result, American citizens protested. Perhaps a small minority of those Americans went about it in a poor way, but you can't say they didn't do something in the face of tyranny. This is a little more than I can say about groups claiming to protect the Constitution and the rights of all men who are created equal, who do absolutely nothing while the federal government pushes against us all. If you have a problem with black people who behave poorly, I would suggest you order some bulk pocket constitutions, go to the hood, pass them out, inform them of their rights, and harness the passion they have on the side of the liberty movement. Paul Douchebag. If you call rioting and looting and killing the path to liberty, then you can keep your liberty. Daniel Lewis Crumpton. I don't recall saying that at all, but you're welcome to cite where I did. Paul Douchebag, right?
Yeah.
Paul Douchebag. I'm a war vet who's fought for this country, and to see thugs destroy the flag and do what they do sickens me. And I don't have a problem with all blacks, but I sure as hell do when they are thugs. Daniel Lewis Crumpton. The Baltimore thing is about a flag being destroyed. Paul Douchebag. This is not just about Baltimore. Daniel Lewis Crumpton. And Chuck, if I got you some listeners to bail out before, then they're really going to go now.
Yeah, I
Daniel
know.
Lewis Crumpton. And I'm sorry, I really am, but if you're 45, you've not fought for this country at all. You've fought to expand a corporation across the globe because this country hasn't declared war since World War II. Just saying. Paul Douchebag. Let me tell you something, you neo-Nazi. I've seen men and women die in combat for this country in Iraq. For whatever fuck reason we were there. That was still my brothers and sisters that died there, asshole. Daniel Lewis Crumpton. I'm sorry you had to see that, I honestly am. But I'm actually a patriotic constitutionalist that read there should be no standing army in this country 2 years after any declared war in the Constitution, so I wasn't fooled into fighting proxy wars for the military-industrial complex that's brought this republic to its knees. Seeing people die doesn't justify a position, and slinging unwarranted labels on people because you don't like what they have to say doesn't either. But just out of curiosity, were any of those brothers or sisters black? Paul Douchebag. Yes, they were, and I don't have a problem with blacks who conduct themselves accordingly, but it's the ones that act as thugs that would kill you right now in a dark alley just 'cause you are white. They can protest all they want. That doesn't bother me, and it's their right to do so. But we're not talking about protest. We are talking about rioting. Daniel Lewis Crumpton. I live in the South and more likely to be lynched by bed sheets in the woods than I am to be killed because I'm white. Go back to your first comment, man. We aren't talking about rioting. We're talking about you not wanting to tiptoe around a particular group of Americans, which is your right to do so as well. I just think it would be more productive for the country if we stop dividing ourselves and confront the real enemy of liberty. And as far as flags go, they are just cloth representations of an ideal, and the ideal of ours has been more marred by the cats in Washington that sent you to war than any so-called black thug. You want to toss titles around, toss them at your recruiter. So, that was the conversation. The story goes on. So there you have that little nugget of goodness. But of course, the tale doesn't end there. And let us hope that Paul Douchebag is reading along with us, so he too can learn how this thing should be done. For his sake, our sake, and the sake of all those pesky little black thugs. As I typically do, on a daily basis, I pop my earbuds in and go for a walk of meditation on the Wellston Trail in my town, which ends at a public park for all to enjoy. It's a beautiful trail which goes through a neighborhood and a nature walk for your viewing pleasure, where I can pass by fellow citizens of my town with a smile, a nod, and an occasional chat. After emerging from the forest, I was pleased to see a lady friend of mine sitting on the grass watching her two little girls networking on the playground for some fellow kiddies to play with. I joined her, and after a while of enjoying the evening breeze underneath the sun, it was time to go round the girls up. When pleas of 5 more minutes were offered up, she and I had no choice but to be at their mercy, so we chose a nice picnic table to sit down for a while. With a content smile, I listened to some tunes and watched the kids playing, the birds searching for food, lovers holding hands, and a bunch of black thugs playing basketball not too far away. A few moments later, a silver Warner Robins Police Department squad car came rolling into the park, to which I mumbled, "Here comes the popo." My lady friend sighed, wondering if they were coming for me again, but I knew better. We waited for the popo officer to popo pop out of his cruiser, but alas, he did not until a second cruiser arrived, and then it became obvious as to why. Popo officer number 1 was a white guy. Popo officer number 2 was black or brown or mocha or whatever. As the two officers crossed the bridge and headed towards the basketball court, the, quote, black thugs began to understandably disperse, and rightfully so, because I'm pretty sure they were well aware that popos can't play ball for shit. They stopped 2 of the black thugs, quote unquote, leaving the court that both had backpacks on, and from where I was could tell they were probably wanting to search their effects. After a moment or two, they let the first 2 go and headed towards the rest of the, quote, black thugs on the court, who still scrambled to collect their gear. Clearly shaken from the intimidation tactics of the Popo Stapo, they had to wet their whistle at the nearby water fountain. At this point, I asked my lady friend to watch my things and told her I would be right back. With my messenger bag on my shoulder, I walked towards them and started to pull out my water bottle so I could refill it at the, oh no, Paul douchebag, the same water fountain as the black thugs. "Hey guys, what was that all about?" I asked. The two, quote, black thugs were young guys around 18 or 19 and obviously shaken by the intimidation tactics the white popo had used on them. Man, they said they're looking for weed, like we got weed on us or something, the one to my left answered. Did they try to search you? I asked. No, but they over there searching them, some of them, said the second young man. I looked over to the court where the officers were already digging through a backpack on a bench as all the other, quote, black thugs walked away. That's messed up, man. Hey, listen, fellas, don't ever let a cop search you without a warrant, and if they ever approach you again like that, don't say a word to them, all right? I instructed. The two young men looked at me, a little perplexed. They had never heard this before, probably because the public education system doesn't want young black men to know what their rights are. You mean I ain't got to let them search me if I don't want to? Of course not. If they don't have a warrant with your name on it, what they want to search and what it is they're searching for signed by a judge, you don't have to let them search a damn thing, I said. I pulled a pocket constitution out and flipped to the Fourth Amendment. Look at this, fellas, I said as both of them flanked me to read along. The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrant shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized, I read aloud. The two young men looked at each other, wide-eyed with a shared damn, which brought a well-earned smile to my face as I could hear light bulbs buzzing on. Now listen, guys, cops can legally lie to you, so don't fall for their tricks that what I just showed you isn't true, all right? Don't let them try to get in your face and intimidate you, because they're just trying to throw you off your game. You got that? I asked. As both of them nodded, I glanced over and saw that Popo 1 and Popo 2 had finished their search of the bag, and now had their eyes on us, walking our way by the second. Knowing our time was short, I knelt down to find something to write on from my bag and sat the Constitution in front of me.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, guys, I'm going to give you my contact information so you can get a hold of me when we part ways. I'd like to teach you guys your rights so you know how to deal with cops when they approach you. They like to target young black men like you because they know you're unaware of your rights by design, so they can throw you in the system and keep you there most of your life so they can milk you for money. Sound like a plan? I asked. As the officers nearly approached us, I looked up and saw both of them nodding with the confidence only a young black man can give the proper swagger to. As I started writing down some of my info, it didn't take too long before Popo Pastyface's voice chimed in with, "What's in the bag?" The two young black men froze on either side of me, thinking they had jumped out of the frying pan only to find themselves on the fire. Still looking down, I smiled as I thought, now here's a perfect teachable moment, isn't it? Thank you, universe. Once I looked up, the first thing I focused on was his name badge, J. Kimblick. The second thing I focused on was the face of the black officer, who stood a few feet behind with a look on his face of, I'm just here because this white asshole needs a token black officer in case anything goes down, and quite frankly, I'm tired of this crap. What was that? I asked. Officer Kimblick repeated, "What's in the bag?" "Do you have a warrant?" I asked. "Do what?" I said, "Do you have a warrant?" I repeated. Uh-oh, I've questioned his authority, and now his face contorts because I have not obeyed, so I have to watch the obligatory Superman pose as his fists touch his hips. "What's going on here with you guys anyway?" Kimblick asked authoritatively. "Oh, I'm just teaching these two young black men about their constitutional rights and how they don't have to allow you guys to search them without a warrant," I answered as I pointed to the Constitution in front of me. To my pleasure, the black officer behind Pasty Face smiled from ear to ear as the two young black men looked at me as if to say, "Nigga, is you cray?" "Oh, is that right? You just come down here to teach people their rights, like that's normal or something?" Kimblick asked with arsenic in his tone. "Well, I'm down here playing with my kiddos over there, if you must know, but whenever I can teach someone about their constitutional rights, I do, as a matter of fact. You know the Constitution, don't you? That thing you took an oath to uphold?" I asked. "I'm out here protecting your constitutional rights, okay? So I think I might know it a little better than you. So let's see some ID," Kimblick ordered. "I don't carry any," I smirked. He gives the look of astonishment because I don't have any papers, cranes his neck and pulls out his pen. "What's your name, then?" "I don't have to tell you that either. Sorry, guy." His jaw opens in bewilderment as the black officer behind him drops his head in an attempt to hold back a laugh. Then, like a spoiled little child who just had his lollipop taken away, he exclaims, "Yes, you do. Georgia law says you have to provide me with your name and birthday if I ask you." "Would you like to read that to me in the OCGA, then tell me what probable cause you have that I'm in the commission of a crime?" I asked. "You're loitering." "I'm in a public park, and curfew isn't until 9 p.m., so would you like to explain to me how I'm loitering?" I asked with my best return of the look of dumbassery. Officer Kimblick stutters and stammers for a moment, upset that his shiny badge and bat gadgets aren't helping him to get his little way, and I make the decision to end this little back and forth. "Look, man, I'm gonna go ahead and evoke my Fifth Amendment because I'm tired of answering your questions, okie dokie." I smiled. So you aren't going to give me your name, he asked. Silent smile. I said you aren't going to give me your name, he repeated. Nothing but crickets. The two young black men looked at me with their jaw to their pecs, then to me as if to say, motherfucker, you is cray. Oh, I see, you want to play the game, Kimblick said, as every officer I have ever encountered does.
Mm.
That, that's when I decided my First Amendment I decided to activate my First Amendment with a response of, my constitutional rights are not a game, and neither are theirs, as I pointed to the young men beside me. Now, I said, am I under arrest or am I free to go? With a humiliated swallow of pride, he whimpered, you're free to go. So I stood to my feet and looked at the two young men with a wink, knowing it's one thing to teach them their rights, but it's something completely different to show them their rights in action. You fellas want to follow me and get this information I'm preaching? I asked. Hell to the yeah, they both reply, as they give Officer Kimblick their best chin snub. Let's step, I say, as we turn our backs to them and walk to my lady friend and her kiddos with our best gangsta walk. By the way, whoever's bag that is over there, you can go back and get it now. We found a little weed in there, but I'm not worried about a little residue. If it's yours, you might want to grab it. There's a nice pair of shoes in there. Wouldn't want you to leave them behind, Kimblick couldn't help but baiting. We just kept walking. My lady friend was sitting at the picnic table, shaking her head with a smile as the three of us rolled up on a sister. I finished giving them my contact information and threw the Constitution down on the table for them to keep. You see how it's done, fellas? I asked. My chest filled up with pride as I saw the look of empowerment on their face at having learned a most valuable lesson this day, a lesson they would never forget for the rest of their lives. They had seen firsthand how every American, black, white, and everything in between, should exert the God-given rights they are endowed with in the face of authoritarian oppression from a police state masquerading as protectors. I felt privileged, having been the messenger of this most holy message to two young men who have their whole lives ahead of them. I instructed them to contact me as soon as they got home, and I would teach them how to use those rights backwards and forwards, under the condition that in turn they teach as many young black men the knowledge I would pass along to them, to which they agreed. As they walked on their way, my lady friend took her youngest one's hand as her oldest hopped on my back, and we made our way to the car. As she strapped the kids in their seats, I watched as the police cruisers dispersed the area. Before she got in the car, I gave her a peck on the cheek, told her I was going to walk back home, and I'd see her later, to which she nodded and told me to be careful. So I put my earbuds back in, and as the sun quickly faded and gave way to the dark, I gangsta walked my way back down the trail. Just before entering the woods leading to my house, I looked over at the bench where the backpack still sat. I looked around for a minute, and with Ghetto Boys playing in my ear, I walked over and snatched the bag up like a boss. So, if you happen to be reading this, Paul Douchebag, I would have you take note and realize that if you see young black men as, quote, black thugs, it's because you haven't done your duty as an American patriot and shared with them the rights you claim to have fought for. You are right in not wanting to tiptoe around blacks because in all actuality, you should be marching alongside of them. As for the Warner Robins Police Department, how about instead of looking for victimless crimes and racking up on quota arrests and citations, you start looking for citizens performing good deeds and public services and uplift them? How about every cruiser is equipped with pocket constitutions to be passed out rather than being equipped with military-grade weapons? How about instead of we, the people, being expected to bow to your badge, your badge be so loaded with integrity and honor, it's heavy enough to make you bow to us, the people you made an oath to protect and serve. As for the owner of the bag, please contact me on Facebook with a private message. I'll be happy to return it to you. It still contains your kicks, house key, chapstick, gold chain, 87 cents, and some receipts from fast food joints. I didn't find any weed, though.
Okay. Now, I just want to tell you that while you were reading that article, these guys are chomping at the bit to call in and give you their 2 cents on this. There's a bunch of them. And I've held back the callers because it's rude to just throw people on, okay? So here's the deal. I'm going to start to take callers now, okay? And we're going to try and not let anybody, completely like filibuster through the whole thing. Add in what you got to add in, say what you got to say, and we'll go from there, okay? So starting now, when you guys hear me, which will be about a minute after I said it, I welcome the calls, okay? So there you go. For those who said I wasn't going to take them, well, there's one right away. Ready? You ready, Daniel?
I'm ready.
All right.
Feel the love.
Yeah, well, we'll see. Well, come on now. Add to the call.
Right.
All right, so 501, you're on the air.
Hello, Chuck. Hey, Daniel. Hey, everybody in chat. Boy, yeah, you got it's fired up in there for sure. So there's a lot of callers lined up.
Right,
Um,
right.
Uh, I would just really want to go back to stopping to think that how we communicate and um, when we have a paradigm, a notion. You know, our notions are so sacred to us that. Then when you add in the fact that, you know, Cracker's a friend here and people felt like he was being, you know, attacked, the way I see Daniel presenting this story is because, you know, this is a major view throughout America, how, you know, there's different paradigms and, you know, militia, whatever, when they went down to the border to defend you know, the plantation from other people that want to live here too. I mean, is freedom free? You know, what? How do you have the freedom or supposed freedom by living here because you were born here? So I find that so many times we get so we're so in love with our own idea that we miss hearing what somebody else is saying. And I think we really need to go back and look at this and take out the logical fallacies, which were many. Start using the trivium, and also what's called the nonviolent communication.
Right.
So
Vince,
as long as we're and this is all part of it. I mean, we're still being divisive here. All of us are in the supposed aware. So many of us are missing it, and we're right there in the same category as those what are called sheeple watching MSM and
right.
whatever
Vince,
the reality show.
Vince, I'm being like slammed by phone calls, man. I appreciate your point. I really do, but I'm being slammed. I want to add some other people.
Right on.
All right, so
Thanks, dude.
thanks a lot, man. Okay,
Hey,
217, you're on.
yeah, hey, how you doing?
All right, how are you?
Hey, Chuck, this is Rod, man.
Oh, I knew you were going to
How
call
you
in. I
doing?
was just trying to make sure everybody got a turn, Rode. I wasn't trying to hold you off. I just wanted to get everybody in.
Oh, I know that. I'm sure there's many people trying to call in.
Yes, they are.
And I'm going to tell Daniel, I'm going to make this short and sweet.
No problem. I want to give you a
Fucking
chance.
Daniel can go fuck himself with this attack on Cracker. I've been fucking chatting with Cracker for years. I mean, years. And I know who he is or what he is about, everything. He's a straight-up dude. And Daniel is a fucking piece of shit. That's all I got to say. Thank you.
You're welcome, Road Dog. Okay. What else we got?
I'm going to make this short.
Hey, this is Michael.
Oh, Michael. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. I'm unsettled. I find Mr. Crumpton's view to be short-sighted. He doesn't. Number one, he doesn't have any time on this planet. The man he was attacking, Cracker's got plenty of time on the planet. He's been places. He's done things. Cracker's viewpoint is 100% on the ball, and Mr. Crumpton's fantasy of fixing everything through, I don't know what the hell his point is, love and brotherhood and forgiveness. He's kind of like fishing up a rope. It doesn't work. Cracker is absolutely 100% right. There's no way to fix this. We're $472 trillion in debt, and the government looks at you as the enemy. The cops look at you as a civilian who's guilty until you're caught, and he thinks that you can like take fucking constitutions and fix this. I'm sorry, dude. I won't listen to a goddamn thing Mr. Crumpton ever has to say again.
You care to respond, Daniel?
Not really. He's entitled to his opinion.
No, absolutely. You know what it is, though. I mean, Michael, I don't see the armed.
I'll tell you what. I will have Cracker as a neighbor before I'd have Crumpton as a neighbor, because I can guarantee you that Cracker takes care of his shit. His yard is mowed, and Crumpton's answer is, well, it's like not legally my constitutional duty to mow my lawn. I'm sorry, he lost a listener, and Ochelli, you came close to losing one too. So I disagree with you completely, Mr. Crumpton, and Cracker is my friend. So fuck off.
Well, I love the guy too, man. I think he's great, and I think he's generally dead on. It's just that I don't think that
Can I say this?
Sure, go ahead.
I think that what your listeners are doing is they're taking it personally. I'm not attacking Cracker. I don't know Cracker. What I am doing is I'm.
He has entered the chat room, by the way.
I use Cracker as an example of an ideal. I'm not attacking anybody personally, but it happened to be there, and that was what I listened to. That's what inspired me to write it. I'm not attacking anybody personally. It's the ideal. That look, you're entitled to your opinion. I don't believe that. I don't believe it has to be a hot revolution. And,
right.
I'm not of that mindset.
541, you're on the air.
Hello.
Hello.
So we'll just bring this down a little bit, a peg. One
Please.
peg. Okay. I read Mr. Crumpton's diatribe against Cracker on his website.
Again, it wasn't against Cracker. It was against the ideology.
Listen, let me finish, please, sir. It's just a diatribe against one person. We all know. So you've got all our backs up because we know who he is. If you would have attacked the argument behind that, that would be one fine thing. But you did not. And that's a logical fallacy, and you really got a lot of people's backup. And next time you go attacking the position, you're not attacking the person. You understand? All of us are flawed in some way and can learn. But to actually go attack a person who we all know is wrong. That's just immoral and wrong. So maybe you should learn how to do it a little better, okay? Thank you.
All right. Well, there you go. The line is open, so I'll let the next caller in, whoever it is. See, this is the thing, though, is that for me, I'm not attacking the guy. I think he's great generally. It's just that I don't agree with the concept of the armed conflict. I just don't. I tried to say that to him, during that show, and I don't go after him individually myself. If everybody takes it as it was just specifically targeted at him, I thought the intent was that you were using him as an example of what you hear from a lot of people. You see, that's what I thought you were doing.
That's exactly what I was doing.
That's not the impression that's apparently been taken.
No, people take things personally when they don't like what they hear.
Here comes another one. So, can't even see it. 813, you're on the air.
Okay, good. This is crap.
Ah, there we go. There he is.
So I actually don't know what's going on here. I just signed on and seen that I was being attacked. What I'm being said, or that's what's being said. So if this guy wants to attack me, here I am.
All right. Put your mouth a little closer to the phone, Cracker, please, because I want to be able to hear what you're saying better. Okay.
I said I don't know what's going on here. I'm just reading that this guy attacked me. I have no idea what about or anything else.
Okay.
I'm on the phone. If he wants to attack me, then let's talk.
Well, there you go. I'll tell you what, though. I'll give you a brief synopsis of what went on in the first hour. You remember the call that you made to Jaded last week?
Yes.
Okay, and you and I were kind of disagreeing because I was saying that I didn't believe that a peaceful solution to the problems we have, nor an armed conflict, was the right thing. And I was trying to tell you that I felt that it was going to require something else that we haven't considered, right?
Well, we did not agree. I still think what I was telling you is spot on. I don't think anything less than that is a change of thing.
No, you and I disagreed. But what I'm saying is you recall the conversation, right?
Yes.
Okay, well, he wrote an article where he cited that conversation, and
Okay.
and if you check the replay, the impression is apparently that he was personally just attacking you, but he was, in my estimation, in his estimation, he was attacking the position that you were taking and using you as an example because he had listened to the show.
Oh, we can dance around the issues all you want. If that's what he was doing, he was attacking me. Are you kidding me?
Okay, no problem. I will let the two of you talk.
All right.
Just try and, the only thing I ask is let each of you talk one at a time. Okay,
go.
Okay, so there you go. Why don't you start, Daniel, and then make sure you allow Cracker to respond.
Well, I had the first hour, and my position's pretty clear. And like I just said, I wasn't attacking Cracker specifically. I was attacking the position that Cracker took. I don't know Cracker personally.
But he didn't hear it, you see.
Yeah. You probably didn't get to hear it.
So the thing is, if you could give him a synopsis, sort of what your position was and why you chose to use him as an example, that might be a good start, and then he could answer that. How about that?
Sure, that sounds good. Well, Cracker, I listened to the show last week, and I'm of the mindset this is just my position. Everybody's entitled to their own position, but I'm well aware of everything that's going on in this country with the degradation of the republic, just as you are. I know about false flag terrorism and all that good stuff, but where people who are of our persuasion and of our knowledge base are kind of coming to a fork in the road is it going to be a violent revolution? Is it all going to collapse, or are we going to have something that we can pass to the next generation? Me personally, I believe that this is just, it's a reboot, a recycle. It's another revolution that we are going to make it through. That it can be peaceful. And let me define some terms. It's already been violent. The federal government has already used violence against us for several years. So when I say peaceful revolution, what I mean is our response to it. I'm of the mindset of someone like Gandhi, the nonviolent, aggression principle. It's my opinion that in a generation, how did we get here? How did we get to the point to where we're all this in debt, and we have NSA spying, and we have all these proxy wars all around the world? How did we get here? Apathy, ignorance. The youth was not. We had nobody taught me in public school about my rights. I had to have this burning desire within me to educate myself. But over a period of time from the founding of this country, the principles that this country was founded on, the people became apathetic and ignorant. And they just did as the generations before them told them to do. That's how we got here, through ignorance. That's how it was passed down to us, through ignorance. And it's my belief that in a generation, I'm around, youngsters who probably know their rights more than people in their 20s or 30s. That in one generation, all we have to do is reverse engineer how we got to this point of degradation with this next generation through education. Because look, the thing that, the people who were in the military and the police, they're going to retire one day. Who's going to fill their shoes? The next generation.
Well, Daniel, hold off, because you're going kind of long, and I wanted to speak specifically to what Cracker's point was, so that he could respond to it himself.
Okay.
All right. So I'm going to kind of stop you there. Do you get a general idea of what he's saying, Cracker?
I sure do.
Okay. Go ahead.
I think I'm having a conversation here, and being attacked by this guy doesn't upset me a bit, because he sounds just like Neville Chamberlain. He has what he is saying. He's sitting right there telling us how we've been led down the path of destruction. We've been led down the path of destruction by being peaceful, by sitting here doing what they've told us to do. And he's thinking that we're going to continue to sit here, do the same thing, and the kids out there are going to rescue themselves. This guy's insane. There's no way that what this man is putting out is ever going to change anything. Now, in theory, wouldn't it be wonderful if it could? Well, there is no tooth fairy. There is no Santa Claus. And there ain't nobody going to come and rescue us. The rest of the damn world hates us because we've done what we've done. Our government has turned on us like a mad dog. And there's no way you're going to vote or use the kangaroo court that we have in this country to change it back to where it needs to be because they control it. And that's the whole deal. If they didn't control everything, then hey, there might be a possibility of this. But there isn't a possibility of this. And people like this man that I'm talking to is the one that's bringing false hope to the table. It isn't me. I'm the one that's bringing real hope to the table. And what I'm saying is not nice, and there's no beautiful way, there's no eloquent way to put it out there. It is the way that it is, and it is that way because of people like him sitting there and not being afraid to say anything about it. There ain't going to be there's no amount of talking and understanding. That's like going down the street and seeing a coexist bumper sticker on the back of a car. Coexist. Doesn't that look beautiful? As we got these sons of bitches that are cutting our fucking heads off. And we're supposed to coexist? Oh, I'm sorry, dude. I don't see it like you see it. I don't see it like Chuck sees it. I see it like I see it. And if you want to attack me for that, you feel free to do so. Because I think you're a fucking coward. You got that?
Okay.
Let me ask you this, Cracker.
Okay, Daniel, go ahead and respond to that.
What solutions do you have to restore the republic?
We got the Second Amendment. That's the only thing that's left. They used everything else. They wiped their ass with the Constitution. They pull us over the side of the road and go through our cars for doing nothing. We haven't broken any laws, but they can still do that to us. The sheriff's department, the cops, the feds, all of them just walk on us like we're nothing.
Okay.
And you're gonna try to deal with people like that. Go tell Randy Weaver that his wife should have dealt with him like that. Go tell Branch Davidians that that's the way that they should have dealt with these people.
Well, so the Second Amendment is the solution. Did not Randy Weaver and the Branch Davidians have?
The Second Amendment was put in there for exactly the kind of government that we have right this minute.
Now, Cracker, did Randy Weaver and the Branch Davidians have firearms?
They had BB guns against a fucking group of killers.
And what happened at Ruby Ridge?
Firearms, they sure did. But you know what? There's a difference between having 100 people in a compound and having 300,000 pissed off fucking Americans. It's a whole different ball game.
Okay.
And let me tell you what I tell people, and then I'll just get off the line and you can just battle all you want to, because I'm not going to bat this back and forth with you because it's insane. What's happened here is the founders of this country put the Second Amendment in there just so we would have something to say. And our Second Amendment is being chipped away piece by piece by piece by piece by people who are doing exactly like what you're talking about. So yeah, the only thing left is the Second Amendment.
Okay, now
the voting is our voting is a joke.
All right, now what happened?
Wait. Can I ask a question to you though, Cracker?
Sure.
Okay, because and this is an honest question. That just I'm not trying to be confrontational with you. You know that. I let you speak your mind. That's absolutely what I would do anytime that you want to call in with me. Okay? Yeah. But here's the thing. The Second Amendment is the solution. What about the other 9 in that Bill of Rights? If the Second Amendment is valid, okay, and the Second Amendment is a solution, why are not the other 9 part of the solution as well?
Just the middle was the final solution. That was put in there when there was nothing else would work. That's exactly what that was for. All the laws that they passed. Do you think we have anything to say with about the laws that they passed? They just passed the laws and tell us we're going to adhere to them. It's not a matter of this as a public forum and we're going to talk about this. And I don't think that's a good idea. No, that ain't what they do. They pass the law and then you do it. And if you don't do it, they've got a police state to make sure that you do. And the only thing that I've seen in the last 20 years of my life is a police state growing and just exponentially, just bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Mm-hmm. I've seen our borders open wide open. They're letting the people who are going to kill us in all the time. And he's sitting here saying that, and you too, Chuck, that there's going to be a peaceful resolution to this. You can hope that there's a peaceful resolution, and I hope there is too. but I am not of the belief that there will be. I'm not even of the belief that there can be. I think it's way past that point.
Well, see, to clarify my position, I don't believe that a peaceful resolution, as we understand it now, is possible. I also don't believe that an armed conflict is going to be the resolution to the problem either. I think it's going to take something else. It may take a combination of the two. It may take something completely wholly unique, something that hasn't been seen before. I think that might actually be the solution here. I don't believe that, simple peaceful protests and speaking out is going to be enough either. That's the thing, is that I just don't see direct armed conflict and spoiling for that being the right way to go.
I don't believe in uniforms.
I would like an explanation as to how the Second Amendment is the solution. Could you elaborate on what you mean? Because I have firearms and there's still a police state. Randy Weaver had firearms, there's still a police state, and they're dead. His wife is dead. The Branch Davidians had firearms and they're dead. How? I'm not. If you could elaborate on how your solution is the Second Amendment.
What is there to elaborate on? They're dead because the fucking government killed them.
Mm-hmm.
That's why.
We all agree on that.
So you think that was a good shoot?
No.
Right in doing what they did?
So again, I asked you. I said, I asked you. I said, what was your solution? And you say the Second Amendment. So I'm asking for you to elaborate on how the Second Amendment is a solution when it's failed.
What part of 300,000 pissed off Americans' armed do you have a problem understanding?
Go first. Lead the way, crap.
Oh, believe me, I'm the kind of guy that would lead the way, and you're the kind of guy that would be standing behind me, cowering in fear. Mm. You guys have a good evening.
All right, sir. I do appreciate your call, and if there's anything else you want to add, okay. Well, your thoughts, Daniel?
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to call somebody who is willing to do peaceful means first a coward. I know Cracker doesn't really know me and doesn't know the things that I have done, in the face of tyranny. The physical harm that I have suffered from the police state, the imprisonment that I have suffered. So to call me a coward, that's whatever. I'll take it on the cheek. And he's not the first person to call me insane. It's actually, I wear that as a badge of honor. But the fact of the matter is that, look, we already get it. There's a police state. Great. What is your solution? Oh, the Second Amendment. Well, what we look throughout history and we see is like I pointed out with Ruby Ridge and Waco, owning guns is not going to do anything. In fact, it'll get you killed. It'll get you killed. And guess what? The Branch Davidians didn't shoot first, and neither did the Weavers. The government shot first.
Right. It wasn't a clean shoot. It was absolutely an abomination what happened in both cases.
Yeah.
But the thing was, they were outgunned, they were outmatched, and 300,000 people pissed off, if they're all in separate compounds, can be mowed down just in exactly the same way, in my estimation. So this is why I said, an insurgency against the greater tyranny is not going to work here. 541, though, you're on the air.
So do we suggest just give all your guns up?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. Mm-mm.
Oh, then, the Weavers and what's his name, Branch Davidian guys, they didn't want to give their guns up either. And they got all shot up and bombed and killed and napalmed, right?
That was a travesty.
Absolutely.
And so, I understood. So even though the Second Amendment may not be effective against the larger government action, do you not believe that you should still have the right to have them?
I believe, you need to have a right, and I didn't say it wasn't effective, but it's not the end-all solution. Like Chuck was saying, you got
tell me what the other solution is then. You keep talking about how bad the guns are. What exactly do you
Wait, whoa. Neither one of us. No, neither one of us said that guns are bad. Hold on.
Okay. Let's not go to the guns are bad then. What do you propose then instead?
Let me make something real clear.
What's that? Oh, come on, man. Stop.
Yeah, let me make something
what
very
do you
clear.
Propose
Whoa. Okay, if you're going to shout over me, then I'll just hang up on you. I'm not going to do that.
Okay.
Let me clarify my position. Okay, we'll have a conversation. Let me clarify my position, because you said, that, okay, I'm against guns. I'm not. I'm not against you, absolutely standing by all 10 of those rights that are in the bill, okay, that are in the Bill of Rights. Those 10 amendments, those first 10 amendments, absolutely. I think that we should be entitled to every last one of them fully, not this incremental destruction which has gone on with all of them. That includes the Second Amendment, okay?
So they're
Now,
useless, though? Is the Second Amendment useless? Should we not defend it?
No, absolutely we should. Absolutely we should.
And why then Weaver and what's his name were correct, I guess.
The point of that was the end result. When you say that is the great solution to the tyranny, well,
it's not a solution. That is the example you get for resisting the tyranny, and you're not going to get anything else any other time because, again, as you say, always outdone you. They've got drones and bombs and napalm and their robots and all that stuff. They can come in and absolutely take you down, and no doubt about that.
Right.
Can I clarify
you don't ever argue about that. However, the right of you to defend yourself against all of that armed is there.
No, absolutely. But all of those mechanisms that are in the Bill of Rights are things that we're supposed to have, and we should have all of them, including the Second Amendment. I just don't think that it's the solution to the greater tyranny, because no matter how well armed you and your friends, or even these 300,000 that he's talking about are, it's not going to be the solution to the problem, in my estimation. That's all I'm saying. It is not.
I agree. I agree with you. But you know what? It's easier to buy a $400 gun than it is to buy a $400 politician.
That's true. And a $400 and a politician that's going to be bought for $400.
You're not going to much. You're not going to bribe. You're not going to bribe the local policeman on the corner to let you go like you will in Mexico or everywhere else. I mean, these guys are military trained goons that are decided that you are the enemy,
right?
And to assume that you have any recourse or recompense,
right,
in the law is a ridiculous fantasy.
That's...
If you really believe that you can get any recourse in the courts, then I got a bridge to sell you.
Well, see, that's the thing. Right? The whole system is a disaster at this point. Daniel, you wanted to say something about the Second Amendment, or you wanted to clarify your position?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify. Nobody here is saying I'm very pro Second Amendment. Very pro. I have firearms. I'm a member of a militia here in Georgia, as a matter of fact. I believe in self-defense. So I don't know where anybody's getting the impression that I'm anti-gun, because that's I don't know where that's coming from. It's an assumption.
I didn't say anti-gun. Anti-resistance.
No, I believe in resistance. I believe in resistance.
Okay.
What I don't believe in...
So you guys are good. I like that, man. And he'll feed you an alligator barbecue if you ever go down and visit him. He's a good guy, man, honestly. It has nothing to do with that. That one article that you wrote, as an example of him, really, I would use a different example.
Well, caller, here's the thing. That one article I wrote sure to get a lot of phone calls, and it got people thinking, which is what I try to do, is to get people to
I'm glad that he gets to be the foil, because he's a good, strong boy, and Cracker's a big, tough man. He served, all right? Did you serve? Where?
It served him what?
Did you serve in the military? Like Cracker did?
The Constitution doesn't allot for a military.
Excuse me, you didn't answer my question. I respect Cracker because he served.
Well, I'll answer that.
Did you do that? Okay.
I'll give you an answer, which is that no, I was not physically allowed to, but I absolutely respect Cracker.
Maybe then you don't have any right to judge my friend. Okay.
Well, I'm not judging. I'm not judging him for that.
That whole article you did there was a hit piece on him.
No, this is Chuck speaking. I'm
sorry, man. I'm just here telling you, and I had that great discussion with you here. The truth is,
no, I absolutely have.
He's on your side, and you don't even understand. No, he's actually your leader. He's a man, and you should follow him. So, okay.
Okay.
I've
well, see, I got you. All right, man. That's cool. Have a good night. I'll tell you, though, I don't choose to follow any one particular man at any point in time. Do I think that Cracker has a lot of things to say that are absolutely necessary and need to be said? Yes. Do I think that his viewpoint is not my viewpoint? Yes, it's not quite my viewpoint. I agree with him on a lot of things, but I've never given him any sort of disrespect regarding his military service. I don't do that. I'm not one of these guys who sits there and screams at people who served in the military. That's not my business to do so. Not because, I didn't serve, so I don't have a right. I've sacrificed in a way that is just as relevant as anybody else who has bled out there, and I don't even need to discuss it on the air. But the point is, okay, that when you gotta give up members of your family, when you gotta give up other people to this mechanism, which I can say at the same time that a lot of the things that even a guy like Cracker was sent off to go and be in a war, which was absolutely an atrocity. Okay, in my estimation, I have a right to say that. He defended that right in his mind when he went to go do that. He defended that right for people to be able to speak out and everything else. And you know what? Again, if he thinks that I'm stupid because of it, or you guys think I'm stupid because of it, that's fine. I have the right to be stupid as I want to be, as far as I'm concerned. At least that's what I understood about the First Amendment. Perhaps somebody would like to correct me there. But you know what? This is the way I see the world. I don't think that an armed conflict is something that we should be, anxious to get to. I don't think that completely peaceful, things that have been done in the past are going to be absolutely effective. I differ from Daniel on this. He believes that, he has a different sort of belief, and that's what we were discussing. Now, again, I have plenty of respect for Cracker. I like what he has to say most of the time, but you know what? It's not a religious cult. I don't get behind any one man. That's not the way it goes, okay? So there you go. And I disagree with Daniel. I've said it several times here. I disagree with the idea that there is a possibility of the group consciousness rising up and doing things. But to me, that's not going to be the hard solution either. I think it's going to require something else. And it may be a combination of things.
It's going to be a combination, Chuck. How do you change a government is from the inside out. You have to change it from the inside out. And how that's going to start is with this generation and the next generation. They are the ones who are going to be stepping up into the military, into the police, in political positions. All right. Well, if we educate them, and if we instill in them the ideals that the founding fathers had, then the government will change in a generation from the inside out. It's going to be a culmination of different things, but you have to engage it. You can't throw your hands up and say, oh, there's no use. It's just all going to burn. I don't believe that. That's not what I want for my progeny. I'm sorry. And, to not want to be the first to pull a trigger or start a hot revolution isn't a coward. Because eventually who's going to have to pick up the pieces? You're just passing the responsibility on to a next generation. That's cowardice. That's what cowardice is. Not assuming the responsibility that this is your country now to clean up. And if there's any way to do it by peaceful means, you need to do it. You need to exhaust it. Because if you don't, it's not so much us that's going to suffer. It's the next generation that's going to suffer. So to call me a coward, I got no ego to bruise. But that's just, look, all right, you want to be John Wayne, be John Wayne. But don't throw the vet thing up in my face and all that good stuff. That's the same thing as Al Sharpton or Jesse Jackson throwing the race car. Oh, you weren't in the military? Well, you can't talk. What? What kind of logical sense does that make? Things like that makes no logical sense. Look, you go and you go to your public park and you look at those kids playing. And you tell me when you look at those kids playing that it's not worth it to exhaust every effort that you have to find a way to fix this country without burning it to the ground. That's my position. And I'm just as passionate about my position as these people who say, well, the Second Amendment. What are you insinuating? Look, what you're insinuating is that we go and shoot. We'll go first. And everybody else who says, I got it, whatever, following. And if he doesn't shoot first, you shoot first. But I'm not that guy. And I don't want another generation being those guys. Look, when you get two violent forces against each other, who wins is the most violent. Is that the society that you want? The most violent? Talking about the Second Amendment and shooting at tyrants is like talking about killing cancer with radiation. You know? That's why it's been passed to us, through apathy. You want to reverse it, you do exactly what the system did to get us in it to begin with. But I don't want to hear any, I'm this and I'm that. Well, good. Go down to D.C. and do your thing. Show us how it's done. Don't wait for me. Don't wait for an army of other American citizens who have firearms. Yeah, we outgun them. But you go first and then talk. Until then, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take the principles in the Constitution, which are divinely inspired, and I'm going to inject it into the minds of those who will do something to enact change. Now, like I said in the article, that's more powerful than any bullet.
Right. Okay. So 361, you're on the air.
Hey, I got to call back in because there's been a couple calls in between, Mr. Crumpton. You've had the chance to talk to my friend Cracker. I'm gonna let you know something right now. The man you are speaking, who's speaking right now, is a completely different guy that started off. You started off with Mr. Snarky. You mocked my buddy's his accent. And you made it just kind of like a party at your house. Well, I'm going to tell you something. A bunch of people showed up. All right. Let me get to something. You want to argue the fact of, okay, what power does one guy with a gun, or even the Branch Davidians with a gun? Cracker stated it eloquently, and this hasn't been actually addressed. 300,000 with a gun makes a hell of a lot more difference. All right, so quit kind of pushing your one gun doesn't have any effect, because that's just as divisive as anything else you want to claim is divisive. Yes, everybody's gun together has massive effect.
And you think those 300,000...
I'm going to tell you this. Joseph Stalin didn't fear 10,000 voters. He feared 10,000 men with rifles.
Right, but here's the thing. 300,000 Americans, you think that they're going to act in unison, or they're going to get picked off clump by clump? I mean, really.
I think, you know what, honestly, I think a bunch are going to get picked off clump by clump. And that first guy who pulls the trigger is going to die. But at some point, the guy who's got to get up in the morning on Monday to go and go to work and make money to feed his 3 kids and pay for his house and his Tahoe is going to see that it's going nowhere, and he's going to take out the first guy. And then guess what? Then his buddies are too. And then you've got your 300,000. So don't push it, and I'll agree with you that maybe we should attempt other methods to subvert this government before we have to go to the final solution, because it will be the end of the USA. But all right, let's talk about something that really has an effect. Don't pay any fucking taxes.
Amen. I agree with that.
Okay, well guess what? You're going to have a hell of a harder time telling people to not pay their taxes than they are to pick up a rifle. People will pick up a rifle, but they will always pay that goddamn tax on it. They take it out of their job.
I don't.
Well, good for you, dude. But now you see what Cracker's saying. That one guy don't have the power. It's 300,000.
Yeah, so let's get 300,000 to do it through peaceful means before we.
Well, I'm gonna tell you what. I'll tell you what. You went about it the wrong way, because your snarky Yankee ass just pissed off everybody with some sort of Southern accent. So you ain't the leader, buddy. And to be honest with you, I don't even want to hear you anymore.
I'm from Georgia, dude. I was born.
Well, that's great. That's great. You know what? But you're not appealing to people from Georgia. You're appealing to the fuck all Yankee crowd. And you think you made an easy in by using the fucking fake-ass Southern accent. Fuck you, that's gross. Why don't you just use a nigger accent or a chink accent or a Jew accent?
Thank you. All right, thank you. I appreciate that.
You really? Yeah, I mean, spread it around. Be equal to everybody. I'm sorry. I'm making a point to not listen when you're on a show. Take it easy. I've said my piece.
All right. Thanks, Mike.
Anyone who uses racial slurs like that, no thank you.
All right.
No thank you. You just quantified yourself. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Hopper, you're on.
Yeah, hey, I think the point that most people are missing here is we got down this road because we played the game they wanted to play. And the reason the Second Amendment's in there is so that we can stop playing the game their way and start playing it with an actual realistic threat, which is death. That's the only thing they're going to understand. Oh, we're going to vote you out of office. Boo fucking who? Who gives a fuck if they get voted out of office? Until you're willing to hang them by their neck, and they realize that they will hang by their neck, they're not going to change what they're doing. They're going to say, yes, please, come on, join us in here in the discussion. Please cast your vote. And then they're going to do what they want to do. It's what they've been doing for generations. I shouldn't have to be willing to fight this war, this revolution. My granddad should have been fighting it already. And I'm not willing to let my grandchildren have to fight it like he was willing to let me.
Can I say this?
You go ahead.
Okay. Chuck, you know Jason Patrick. He's also a member of ZenonTheCar.com.
Right.
And like I said earlier, I'm also a member of the militia here and affiliated with several militias throughout the country. I believe in the Second Amendment, and I believe in defense. I don't believe in preemptive violence. I believe in violence in defense. Now, case in point, the Bundy Ranch a year ago, when the Bureau of Land Management came out there and they were going to seize all of Cliven Bundy's cattle, the militias flocked out there with their arms.
And why did they stop?
Why did they stop?
Yeah, why did BLM stop?
The federal government stopped because the militia were willing to defend Cliven Bundy. But
no,
the thing
because
is,
they were willing to kill the motherfuckers that were crossing the line. That's
in defense.
It. They didn't go after them with a piece of paper. They didn't go after them with nothing. They went after them with guns and manpower. And until that happens at the highest levels, we are going to keep getting what we got now. It will keep getting worse. The water will keep getting hotter until it finally boils.
Hopper, let me ask you a couple of questions. Did the BLM get what they wanted?
No.
How many people died?
Nobody.
That's all I'm saying.
Right.
Be willing to use force in self-defense as a last resort. The Bundy Ranch proves my position that we can change things without using...
No. I think it disproves your point. Because if they'd have stood there with pieces of paper in their hand saying we have a right because of this piece of paper, the BLM would have just walked right over them. The only reason it worked is because there were people on the other side of the line willing to pull the trigger, and they knew it. Just like if you went up there to the White House with a rope in your hand and you lathered it up with some soap so it's going to snap really quick, as soon as one of those guys realize that rope's going to be around their neck, they're backing off. But until that happens, they're going to look at your piece of paper and wipe their fucking ass with it.
I agree with you. I believe the Second Amendment is important in conjunction with the others. Look, like I've said.
I ain't even saying Second Amendment. Fuck the Second Amendment. They can have it. It's death. It is the threat of actual death. We're willing to threaten them with their career. Oh, we're going to vote you out of office, going to ruin your career. You know, they don't give a shit. They don't give a damn. They're going to go get another fucking job. That's what they're going to do. But when you threaten to hang them, when you threaten to put a bullet in them and put them in the ground, then they back off. That's the only time they back off. That's the only time they've ever backed off. Ever. A piece of paper has never got them to back down. Ever. You tell me once when a guy walked out to the gate with a piece of paper and they backed off. It hasn't happened. It has never, ever happened. Has it? Name one time a piece of paper changed the outcome in the favor of the people, not the government.
I don't know who's advocating walking towards the federal government with a piece of paper.
That's what you're advocating.
No, I don't believe I am.
Look back to the voting box. We need to vote them out. We need to. There ain't no changing nothing.
You know, actually, we didn't even discuss voting.
At all.
We didn't discuss voting or that loaded rigged system. I don't have any faith in that.
And you understand there's 3 boxes, right? Right? 3 boxes. You get that, right?
Which? Why don't you elaborate on that, Hopper? What do you mean by 3 boxes?
There's a soap box. That's the one you're on right now, Chuck.
Okay.
There's a ballot box.
Okay.
You obviously know what that is.
Yep.
And there's an ammo box.
Okay.
There you go. We're at the last box. Do you really think Barack Obama actually won the election?
No. No.
Okay.
Do I think there's been a legitimate election in this country for a very, very long time? No. No, of course not.
And there won't be. And every time we go up against these guys and we play their game by their rules, they switch it up just enough so they win.
Okay, my point about this, though, is with your 3-box situation here, is that it's going to take thinking outside of the boxes, okay? Because none of them is going to solve this in total. It's not going to happen.
The box. That's what has to happen.
But none of those boxes is going to solve the problem.
I understand it's inconvenient. I understand that it has shades of red and black that nobody wants to be involved in. And hey, I really don't want to be involved in it either. But if I have to, I'm willing to. I've sat at the table with Randy Weaver. He has sat at my dinner table. And the man knows exactly what happened. He knows exactly what happened.
Well, there you go.
Are we there?
Yeah, we're still here. I was
All right,
I was letting you go there. I thought you were going to say something else. Sorry.
I'm about done, man. It's coming down to the fact that until they are scared for their actual life, not their well-being, but their life, it will not change. And unfortunately, that means it's time to water the tree of liberty. It will cost some of us our lives, and it will cost some of them their lives. And that's the cold reality of it. That's it.
Mm.
That's where I'm at.
All right.
You guys have a good evening.
You too, Hopper.
All right. Thanks.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I thought you were going, and I was just moving you out of the way because I thought somebody else was calling in, and they're gone. Okay. Whoever that was, if you want to try and call in, there's only a couple minutes left, but go right ahead. 718-717-8296. Seems like we had plenty of calls. Daniel, if nobody else calls in, you want to put a cap on this?
Well, yeah, it's been fun. Hey, man, I took a lot of abuse tonight, and that's cool. That's great, because if you're not, catching some flack, you're not over the target. Yeah, it's not an easy message that I'm talking. It's just as hard to swallow as it is, that there's going to be some unified revolution of arms going to the federal government or whatever. A lot of assumptions were thrown around. One is that I'm anti-gun. Two, that I'm advocating voting. I don't even vote. I don't believe that's the way either. But these are what's called straw men. You're upset because I mentioned Cracker. All the guys who called in, and you're upset because you saw it as a personal attack because you personally know Cracker. So you reacted with an emotional response, and that's understandable. But, realistically, when you remove the emotion from it of the whole, Semper Fi and all this other good stuff, and he served in whatever, and you logically look at it, no. Look, whenever they passed the whole Federal Reserve Act, all the cats who were like, we're going to go shoot them and hang them, you would have done it then, and you didn't, and you're not going to do it now. You're not going to get 300,000 people with guns in a unified front to fight the federal government. Look, the dollar's going to collapse, and guess what? Your police and your military are paid through the dollar. They're going to go home. They're going to put their guns down, and they're going to grow a damn garden. Yeah, you may have a few knuckleheads that were so indoctrinated that they'll follow orders, because somebody has more dicks on their shoulder than the other. Just like some of the people who called and, Cracker's my leader. Look, dude, I don't follow nobody, and just because you got some stripes on your shoulder, whatever. No, when the dollar collapses, and it's going to, the shit's not going to hit the fan. We are either going to evolve, or as a species, we're just going to go the way of the dodo. Now,
there you go.
I'm an optimist, but the whole when the dollar collapses thing, that's so ridiculous. That's when nobody's getting paid to go shoot people with guns. I mean, if I came up to you and said, hey, Chuck, I know you're in the military and everything, and I want you to go shoot all these 300,000 Americans with guns, but you're not going to get paid to do it. Chuck, what are you going to do?
Well, unless I'm a sociopath, I'm not going.
Yeah,
so
not going.
There it goes. Listen, we're about to run out of time. And I want to thank everybody who decided to call in, regardless of exactly what your position was. Do appreciate you. Definitely want to say, look, I love all you guys. Cracker especially. I do love what you got to say. I respect you, but I disagree. That's all there is to it. Okay, and I don't necessarily agree with Daniel entirely. I think that it's going to take something else, and it's just the else I don't have. I really don't. But I want to thank everybody who decided to tune into the Ochelli Effect tonight. We're just about out of here. My guest was Daniel Lewis Crumpton, who is an author and a writer at zeninthecar.com, also the author of Then Came the Flood and the poetry book again.
Hearts and Arrows, Halos and Horns.
Hearts and Arrows, Halos and Horns. Did I get it right?
That's right.
All right. Anyway, everybody try and stay tuned for Jaded. Do appreciate it.